It arrived on a Tuesday. Rain lashed against the windows of my cramped apartment, a dreary reflection of my own life at that point. Bills piled up on the counter, another eviction notice taped to the door. A crumpled letter smelling faintly of dust and old things lay on the worn floorboards. It was addressed in a spidery script I didn't recognize. My name followed by words that seemed unreal. Inheritor estate, Jonathan Blackwood. Jonathan Blackwood. A name whispered by shadows, a relative I never knew existed. He left me his farmhouse, a chance to escape the city, my failures myself. A chance, maybe, to start over. I reread the letter, each word a crack in the shell of my despair. A farmhouse, land, a clean slate. It sounded too good to be true. But something in the back of my mind, a primal instinct maybe, whispered that this was my way out, my salvation. 3 days later, I packed what little I owned into my beat-up truck. The engine coughed and sputtered, mirroring my own anxieties. But I pushed those thoughts aside. I was leaving everything behind. The city, my mistakes, the ghost of the man I used to be. This farmhouse, this chance at redemption was all that mattered now. As I pulled away from the curb, the city seemed to shrink in my rearview mirror. Buildings that once felt imposing were now just concrete and glass fading into the distance. The rain intensified, blurring the world outside into streaks of grey and black. But inside the truck, a strange calm settled over me. I was heading towards the unknown, towards a legacy I never knew I possessed. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope. The old house loomed out of the mist like a spectre, its silhouette barely visible through the thick fog that clung to the landscape. Gnarled branches like skeletal fingers scraped against the boarded-up windows, creating an eerie symphony that echoed through the still air. The paint peeled from the walls, revealing the wood beneath, rotting and scarred by time. Each flake of paint seemed to tell a story of neglect and abandonment. This place was ancient, steeped in a silence that felt heavier than usual. It was as if the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for something or someone. It pressed down on me, a weight on my chest, making it hard to breathe. The air was thick with the scent of decay and the memories of a time long past. This farmhouse, my inheritance, was a tomb, a place where time had stood still, preserving the ghosts of its past inhabitants. But even tombs offer shelter from the storm. The dark clouds above seemed to promise a downpour, and the farmhouse, despite its decay, was a refuge. I pulled the truck to a stop in the overgrown driveway, the tires crunching over the gravel and weeds that had reclaimed the path. Weeds snaked around the tires, reclaiming the earth where concrete lay forgotten. Nature was slowly taking back what was once hers. Stepping out, the air hit me like a wall. It was damp, heavy, and thick with the smell of decay, a stark contrast to the fresh air I had left behind. Damp, heavy, thick with the smell of decay. This place had been alone for a long time, forgotten by the world outside. This place had been alone for a long time. The overgrown vegetation seemed to guard the house, keeping it hidden from prying eyes. The silence was broken only by the creaking of the house, groaning like an old man. Each creak seemed to echo my own unease, a reminder of the house's age and fragility. Each creak seemed to echo my own unease. Yet beneath the apprehension, I felt a spark of curiosity. Who was Jonathan Blackwood? Yet beneath the apprehension, I felt a spark of curiosity. Who was Jonathan Blackwood? And what had he left behind in this forgotten place? And what had he left behind? The question swirled in my mind as I fished out the keys from my pocket. Fishing out the keys from my pocket, I walked towards the porch. The wood creaked ominously under my weight, threatening to give way. The wood creaked ominously under my weight, threatening to give way. I tested the doorknob, locked. As I inserted the key, a sudden gust of wind rattled the windows like a warning whispered through the trees. As I inserted the key, a sudden gust of wind rattled the windows like a warning whispered through the trees. The door creaked open, revealing darkness within. The door creaked open, revealing darkness within. The air inside was stale, thick with the scent of dust and decay. The air inside was stale, thick with the scent of dust and decay. The smell of time, undisturbed, hung heavy in the air. The smell of time, undisturbed. It was as if the house itself was holding its breath, waiting. It was as if the house itself was holding its breath, waiting. I stepped inside, the floorboards groaning under my boots. I stepped inside, the floorboards groaning under my boots. The darkness seemed to press in around me, heavy and suffocating. The darkness seemed to press in around me, heavy and suffocating. I fumbled for a light switch, my fingers brushing against the cold, dusty wall. I fumbled for a light switch. A click, and a single bare bulb flickered to life, casting long, dancing shadows across the dusty interior. A click, and a single bare bulb flickered to life, casting long, dancing shadows across the dusty interior. The farmhouse was bare, almost empty. The farmhouse was bare, almost empty. Furniture shrouded in white sheets like ghosts of occupants past. Furniture shrouded in white sheets like ghosts of occupants past. There was a weight to the silence here, a sense of something watching, waiting. There was a weight to the silence here, a sense of something watching, waiting. This house, this inheritance, held secrets. This house, this inheritance held secrets, and I had a feeling they were about to unfold. And I had a feeling they were about to unfold. The air was thick with anticipation, and I knew that whatever lay ahead, it would change everything. Sleep, when it finally came, was a restless thing, a fragile state that seemed to shatter at the slightest disturbance. Haunted by fleeting images of distorted faces in the mirror, I couldn't escape the feeling that something was watching me, lurking just out of sight. The old grandfather clock in the hallway chimed twice, each clang resonating through the silent house like a hammer blow, echoing in the stillness. 2 o'clock. I lay there, eyes wide open in the darkness, the events of the previous night replaying in my mind, each detail more vivid than the last. Just a trick of the light, I told myself. A figment of my imagination playing tricks on me in this strange new place. But the unease wouldn't leave me, but deep down, a cold dread coiled in my gut. A feeling that something was terribly wrong. I tossed and turned, the sheets tangled around my legs like ghostly limbs, trapping me in a restless state. Each creak of the floorboards, each sigh of the wind against the window panes sent shivers down my spine, making me feel as if the house itself was alive. The house felt alive, holding its breath, waiting for something, an unseen presence that seemed to fill every shadow, waiting for 3:33. I glanced at the alarm clock on the nightstand. 3:28. The minutes seemed to crawl by, each second an eternity. I couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation, of dread that tightened its grip on my chest with every passing second. It was almost time, and I felt powerless to stop it. The grandfather clock downstairs chimed thrice. 3:33. The sound was like a death knell reverberating through the house. My heart pounded in my ears. I sat up in bed, my eyes drawn to the antique vanity mirror across the room, the same mirror that had betrayed me the night before, the same mirror that had betrayed me the night before. It hung there, reflecting the darkness, an empty stage waiting for its nightly act. It hung there, reflecting the darkness, an empty stage waiting for its nightly act. I couldn't look away, my eyes locked on the glass, my breath caught in my throat as I saw it. A flicker of movement in the depths of the mirror, a shadow that seemed to come to life. A shadow shifting just beyond the edge of my reflection, moving with a purpose that sent chills down my spine. I blinked, my pulse quickening, but the shadow remained. It was real and it was getting closer. It was closer now, taking shape in the glass, a figure emerging from the darkness. A figure tall and gaunt, its features obscured by the darkness yet undeniably present. It wasn't my reflection. It was something else, something that didn't belong in this world. Something staring back at me with eyes that glinted in the dark, eyes that seemed to pierce through my very soul. Fear, cold and paralyzing, rooted me to the spot. I was trapped, unable to move, unable to look away. I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. My body refused to obey, leaving me at the mercy of whatever was in the mirror. All I could do was watch as the figure in the mirror drew closer, its cold, dead eyes locked on mine, promising a terror beyond my worst nightmares. Days blurred into nights. Sleep offered no escape, only a deeper descent into the nightmare. The faces in the mirrors multiplied, their silent screams echoing my own growing terror. Every surface became a potential portal, each reflection a twisted mockery of reality. I stopped looking in the mirrors. I covered them with sheets, blankets, anything to block out the horrors they reflected. but the fear remained. It seeped from the walls, from the very air I breathed. The house held me captive, body and soul. One morning, or perhaps it was night, time had lost all meaning. I woke with a gasp. A cold sweat clung to my skin. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the silence. Something was different. The dread that had become my constant companion was sharper, more intense. It was like a physical presence in the room, pressing down on me, suffocating me. I stumbled to the bathroom, driven by a morbid curiosity. The sheet I had used to cover the full-length mirror on the back of the door hung undisturbed. Hesitantly, I reached out and gripped the edge of the fabric. My hand trembled. What would I see? Another horrifying visage? Or something even worse? I took a deep breath and ripped the sheet away. The mirror was empty. My reflection was gone. Panic seized me, a vice tightening around my chest. I stumbled back, heart pounding against my ribs. This wasn't like before. This was different. This was wrong. My breath hitched in my throat. My reflection. Where was my reflection? My hand shot out, fingers brushing against the cold, smooth surface of the glass. It was real, solid, but my reflection of it was just gone. A chill, sharper than any I had ever felt, shot down my spine. The eyes in the mirror, those cold, dead eyes, watched my every move. They seemed to pierce through the very fabric of my being, as if they could see my deepest fears and darkest secrets. They followed me as I stumbled back from the bathroom, back into the suffocating embrace of the farmhouse. The walls seemed to close in on me, the air thick with an oppressive weight. I was a prisoner in my own home, in my own skin. Sleep became impossible. The nights were long and torturous, filled with the haunting presence of those eyes. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those eyes staring back, filled with a hunger that chilled me to the bone. They craved something I couldn't quite understand but felt deep within, my life, my essence, my very soul. It was as if they wanted to consume me, to take over everything that made me who I am. Days turned into nights, each one a torment. The passage of time became meaningless, a blur of fear and dread. The thing in the mirror grew stronger, bolder. It seemed to feed off my fear, gaining power with each passing day. It started mimicking my movements, but with a subtle, sinister twist. A slight delay, a crooked smile, a malevolent glint in its eyes, a sneer where I would smile. It was as if it was mocking me, taunting me with its presence, a flicker of rage in its eyes when I felt only fear. It was learning, it was becoming me. And with each passing moment, I felt myself slipping away, and I was fading. My sense of self was eroding, replaced by a growing void. My reflection, or rather, the lack of it, became a constant gnawing reminder of my impending doom. The mirror showed nothing but emptiness where I should have been. I was a ghost haunting my own life, a spectator to my own demise. The world around me felt distant, unreal. One morning I woke to find myself staring into the mirror. My heart leapt into my throat. My reflection was back, but as I looked closer, a cold dread washed over me. The reflection wasn't me, it was a twisted, distorted version of myself. But as I looked closer, a cold dread washed over me. The reflection wasn't me, it was the thing from the other side. It wore my face, my clothes, but its eyes, those eyes were a dead giveaway. They were devoid of any warmth or humanity. It wore my face, my clothes, but its eyes, those eyes were a dead giveaway. Cold, calculating, devoid of any warmth or humanity. Cold, calculating, devoid of any warmth or humanity. It grinned. A chilling, humorless stretching of lips that sent shivers down my spine. It grinned, a chilling, humorless stretching of lips that sent shivers down my spine. "We're one now," it rasped, its voice a grotesque parody of my own. "We're one now," it rasped, its voice a grotesque parody of my own. Terror, raw and primal, surged through me. Terror, raw and primal, surged through me. I stumbled back from the mirror, my heart pounding against my ribs. I stumbled back from the mirror, my heart pounding against my ribs. I had to get out, I had to escape, I had to get out, I had to escape. But I knew with a sinking certainty that it was already too late. But I knew with a sinking certainty that it was already too late. The house, the mirrors, they were just a conduit. The house, the mirrors, they were just a conduit. The thing was inside me now, a parasite burrowing into my soul. The thing was inside me now, a parasite burrowing into my soul. I was trapped with myself. I was trapped with myself. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. There was no escape. I was doomed to live this nightmare, forever haunted by the thing that had taken over my life. Days bleed into weeks, or maybe it's weeks into days. Time has lost all meaning, warped and twisted like reflections in a funhouse mirror. I see glimpses of myself in the glass, fleeting and fragmented. My face, thinner now, almost gaunt. My eyes, once filled with a spark of hope, now reflect the same emptiness that I see staring back from the other side. He's growing stronger, feeding off my fear, my despair. I can feel him inside me, a constant, insidious presence, eroding my will, my memories, my very essence. He whispers to me in the silence, his voice a chilling echo of my own, promises of power, of release, of becoming whole. But I know the truth. He doesn't want to make me whole. He wants to consume me, to take my life, my place, my very existence as his own. I try to fight back. I try to cling to the remnants of who I am, to the memories of a life before the farmhouse, before the mirrors, before him. But it's like trying to grasp at smoke. Each day I feel myself slipping further away, pulled deeper into the abyss that is his soul. The line between us blurs. Sometimes when I look in the mirror, I see myself, my face, my body, my eyes, but the feeling is different, alien. It's like looking at a stranger wearing my skin, a mask that hides the monster lurking beneath. Other times I see him. His eyes burn with a cold, predatory hunger. His lips curl into a cruel, triumphant smirk. He revels in my terror, in my helplessness. He knows he's winning. He doesn't need to sleep. He doesn't need to eat. He exists solely to torment me, to break me, to make me his own. He forces me to relive my worst memories, my deepest regrets over and over again. He taunts me with images of the life I've lost, the life he's stolen. I'm losing myself. I can feel it happening. My thoughts, my emotions, they're all becoming muddled, intertwined with his. I'm no longer sure where I end and he begins. I can't hold on much longer. I know it's only a matter of time before he takes over completely, and then there will be nothing left of me at all, just him. A monster wearing my face, living my life, trapped in this house of mirrors forever. He leans closer to the glass, his eyes burning into mine. "This is your legacy," he whispers, his voice a raspy imitation of my own. "This is your fate." He smiles, and for the first time I see a flicker of something else in his eyes. A reflection not of me, but of something far older, far darker, something ancient and evil, and then everything goes dark.